Welcome to Bryer's Music Showcase. I am Bryer and welcome back to another video. It's that special time once again. It's that time where I go through all the CDs that I've purchased throughout the month. So we have just completed April, so we're pretty much a third of the way through the year. So yeah, I mean, there's still a long way to go, but I've bought a lot, so I'm ashamed of myself. But regardless, so if you're new to my CD hauls, this is the time where, like I just said, I go through all the CDs that I purchased, and I also give my brief thoughts on them. They're usually a first impression because for a lot of these, I only had time to listen to them at least one time. So again, they're going to be brief, but I bought a lot, so I'm going to try and get through these quickly. So I believe in total I have about 33, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I think comparing with all the other months throughout the year, so far this is the one I've bought the least, but again, it's still quite a lot. So without further ado, let's do this. So before I begin, please, if you enjoy these CD hauls, give these videos a like, subscribe if you are new, and of course, give your thoughts on these CDs that as I go through them. Always look forward to knowing your thoughts on them. All right, let's do this. So let's start off. So we're gonna go through this one first. So this is a live album, and again, I'm not huge on live albums, but every so often I'll get one every so often. And I got this one. So the band is called 10,000 Maniacs, and this is their MTV Unplugged album. So I don't know a lot about this band. I haven't heard that much, but like the title suggests, it's their MTV Unplugged live concert that they did a lot in the 90s and early 2000s. I'm not sure they still do it, but it was kind of a neat idea. I'll just go through this briefly. I'm not going to go through the insides that much, but because again, we have a lot to get through, but I'll kind of show this one just so you see. The reason why I got this was because, I don't know how, but I stumbled upon their version of Because the Night by Patti Smith, and I really enjoyed their rendition of it. Like, I really enjoyed the lead singer's vocals on it. It just sounds great, and I like the violin and the string instruments in the band. And yeah, overall, it was a very good cover. So I kind of maybe want to get it just solely because of Because the Night. And I found this in the dollars section at my local record store. And actually, if you have not heard the podcast episode I did on the CD Collectors podcast I did with Alex, this album got mentioned because from what I've gathered, apparently this is something you're always going to find in the dollars section of a record store. Just a little tidbit, but yeah, I got it, and and as a whole, very enjoyable. I really enjoyed this one. Again, it has a great chill vibe, which is kind of the whole point of MTV Unplugged. The vocalist, like I mentioned, sounds great, and some of the songs were pretty good. I'm not sure how they sounded in the studio, but for those who know this band more, let me know if they're worth exploring more. But yeah, I think this is a good first impression of this band. So yeah, that's the first one. All right, next we have got this at a record store as well. And some of these I've shown before in past videos. I already forgot which ones I've shown and which one I haven't, so take that for what you will. But the next one I have here is from a band called Big Brother and the Holding Company, and here is Cheap Thrills. So if you don't know this band, you might know their lead singer, which is on the back, and that's Janis Joplin. So this was the band she was in before she went solo, I believe. I don't know the whole history, but I believe that's right. You can correct me in the comments. But yeah, this is the last album she did before she left. So let's just show the disc real quick. Yeah, you know, this is like blues rock, a little bit of psychedelic, maybe a bit of acid, but very bluesy album. And I think, again, Janis sounds really good on this album. Just good old-fashioned 60s rock. I was very enjoyed this one, and it's kind of interesting is that it's supposed to sound like a live album, even though it technically isn't. Like, the only live song on this is the last track, which is Ball and Chain. All the other songs were done in the studio, but they're kind of modified to sound like it's live, which is kind of interesting. But it's still very cool. Combination of the two is good. I Need a Man to Love. Then you have, of course, one of the more notable songs, which is Piece of My Heart, which is a great song. That was like the first song I heard from Janis Joplin. But yeah, Oh Sweet Mary, and the live song, which was Ball and Chain, that's a good one. So yeah, very much enjoy this one. So yeah, good find. Here's another pretty interesting find. So here's a band I'm not sure many people know, but the band's called Blue Cheer, and this is their first album, Vincebus Eruptum. I believe that's supposed to be a code name for acid or something like that. I am not sure. I don't take drugs, so take that for what you will. But if you don't know this band, they're kind of like they're a 60s kind of proto-metal type of band. So basically, they kind of had that very heavy sound that we think of heavy metal, but they haven't, of course, it's still very new. Of course, Black Sabbath would cement heavy metal as a sound, but these guys were kind of like a pioneers of it. This was pre-Black Sabbath. So this was kind of interesting because I heard about this band, of course, and I wanted to check it out. And you know, you can kind of tell it's the like 1968 this came out, I believe. Yeah, 1968 this came out. So obviously the technology to record heavy music is not quite there yet. So it doesn't sound the best, but there's still some good songs in here. There's covers, of course. You know, it's a debut. There's going to be covers. I think only three songs here are originals. Yeah, because there's only 6 songs. So 3 songs were originals. The others were covers. So very interesting. Again, the only thing that kind of holds this album back is the production. But again, it's 1968. You kind of have to, you know, be merciful on it because it is a product of its time. And of course, greater stuff would come later. But very, very cool. Very cool album. Now this one I know I've shown recently. So we have Boston, and this is Don't Look Back, which is the second album. Of course, the debut is a stone cold classic. It's a perfect album, if you will. And so when they get to this album, I mean, how could you follow it up? And you know, many people says that this album is very good, and it is. It's very good. It's very strong. It's obviously it's not as good as the debut, but of course, how can you? I think this album's still very strong. There's still some great songs on here. You have the title track, which is a great opening one. It's easy. Feeling Satisfied, great. Party's all right. Don't Be Afraid. I feel like the only thing that holds this album back, it doesn't have those great hits. Because the first album had like ginormous songs. Here, they're good songs, but nothing that will really explode in your face, if that makes sense. But there's still, it's very good. It's very strong. It's a very strong second album. So yeah, I'm glad I got this one. Glad to have it in the collection. So yeah. And here's another one I've shown before because I unboxed it on camera. So here we have Mint Jams by a band called I forgot how you say it because I looked up how to properly say it and I learned it, but I already forgot it. So I'm going to try and see if I can read it now. So Casiopea, I think. Again, I'm not sure. But this is a jazz fusion album, and this one's from Japan. So I know a viewer recommended me to check this band out, and this is the album they suggested, and I went out and bought it. So if you're that person who suggested this album, I thank you very much, because this is a very good album. Like I said, it's jazz fusion. It's all instrumental, no vocals really. It's just the musicianship. That's the main star. And oh boy, there's some great stuff on here. I mean, the bass work, the guitars are great, the drumming, and even the keyboards they're using on this album sound great. And what's interesting, this is actually a live album. And when you first hear it, it doesn't sound like a live album because they cut out most of the audience reactions. There's only like a couple songs where they keep it in, but for the most part, if you weren't paying attention, you would think this is a studio album. But no, this is a live recording, which is pretty awesome. I mean, it's always been known that Japan is living in the future. So, in terms of their audio engineering, yeah, it shows. But this is a great album. Like if you love jazz fusion, I suggest check this band out. Definitely want to check out more of this one. So if you know more about this band, let me know some other ones to check out by them, because I'm very interested. So yeah, good pick, good find. All right, still sticking with kind of the jazz fusion. Here's another famous band, kind of a jazz fusion, maybe a little prog, progressive rock maybe, if you will. But yeah, we have Chicago with Chicago 2. Technically it is supposed to be just Chicago, but it's the second album they released, so Chicago 2. Boom, that's what we're calling it now. So yeah, I mean I've wanted to get more Chicago for a long time, because I've had the debut for a little bit and I have a greatest hits compilation. But I want to get more albums, and of course I want to get this one because this is another great one. I mean, it has some very standout songs like 25 or 624, Make Me Smile. What other songs did I know before? I think I knew Fancy Colors before as well. I think those were the only ones Color My World was on the compilation CD I have. But yeah, as a whole, again, another great album. Again, the Terry Kath, great guitarist as usual, and the rest of the band is amazing. I mean, Peter Cetera is one of those bass players I feel like it's a bit underrated, because people only know him as a singer, but early on he was a very strong bass player. But yeah, and of course this is a Steven Wilson remix, so it sounds great. So yeah, awesome find. All right. Next one, here's a band that some people like, most people that I know don't so much. So here we have Coldplay, and this is their album, A Rush of Blood to the Head. Pretty interesting cover. See, it's supposed to be, there's a face, there's a head there. I think that's a shoulder maybe. That's what I'm assuming. So yeah, Coldplay. This one came out in 2002. The only song I knew beforehand was Clocks. And I just want to check out Coldplay because I'm trying to kind of dip my toes back into like more modern music. Of course, this is not that modern now, but you know what I mean. So I got this one. It was cheap. I think it was in the dollar bin. And yeah, it's all right. I kind of liked it. Again, I might need to listen to this one more, but as of now, I like it. Not sure if I love it though, because Clocks is a good song, like I said, but the other songs I don't feel are as memorable as that one. But again, it could just be I need to listen to it again. But yeah, it's a fine album. I don't have much to say on it. But let me know if you're a Coldplay fan or not. Let me know your thoughts, if there's other albums I need to check out. So I'm all ears. Let me know. And here's another modern album. I think this one came out this year. And this one, again, I wanted to dip my toes back into modern music. So I got this one's called Endless Summer Vacation by Miley Cyrus. That's right. I've always had kind of I guess you can say Miley Cyrus is another kind of guilty pleasure of mine. Again, I'm using guilty pleasure loosely. But you know, I like some of her songs. I've always liked them, like Party in USA, and I kind of like Wrecking Ball too, if I'm gonna be honest. And I like some of the stuff she did long ago, because I know she did a song with Billy Idol, and I liked that song a lot. So I decided to go ahead and listen to this one. This came out, like I said, this came out earlier this year. And yeah, I kind of like this one too. Again, another one I need to listen to it again. But from what I recall, some good stuff. I liked it. Now, whole last thing, it's kind of like your typical like pop, dance pop, a little bit of a smidge of a dance rock sound, but a little bit. But overall, not bad at all. I didn't hate it, so that's a good sign. All right, Dire Straits is up next. We have Brothers in Arms. Another one of those bands I need to get more, because I have, what do I have? I have one so far. I have Moving Pictures. That's what it's called, right? Moving Pictures? I'm just looking behind me. Out my way, Phil. I need to know something. Okay. Making Movies. I don't know where I got that from. I think I had Rush in my head. Rush. Anyhow, so back to Dire Straits. Another very good album. This was a great find. I've heard people really enjoy this album, and I totally get it. I mean, so many great hooks on here. The guitar work by Mark Knopfler is, of course, legendary. You have So Far Away is a good song. Money for Nothing was a hit. Walk of Life. Why Worry? Right Across the River. The title track. Just a good album. Just a good 80s rock album. So yeah. Alright, next up we have two by the same artist, so we'll tackle them at the same time. So both of them are by Bob Dylan. So we have his third album, The Times They Are A-Changing. And then, and I got this one because shout out to Jason once again, Jason the Old Millennial, because he did a video on this. I think he did a video where he mentioned this album. And it's called Another Side of Bob Dylan. And this is the one, I think this one came after this one, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, we'll talk about this one first. So again, this is probably, to some people, this is one of his best of his folk period. So again, it's just him with acoustic guitar and harmonica. Same with this one as well, but I think this one has piano. But this one's still fully acoustic guitar and harmonica. Of course, the title track is another legendary song, very timeless one. See, Ballad of Hollis Brown, One Too Many Mornings, North Country Blues, The Wholesome Death of Katy Carroll. Hopefully I said that right. But yeah, it's a legendary album. The thing is, I'm not too huge on his folk period. I do like his stuff. Like, of course, late 60s and 70s stuff more, because there's a lot more to them than just acoustic guitar and harmonica. But I do appreciate them for what they are. So since they're kind of the same, I mean, so I do very much enjoy both these albums. But again, I do prefer the more folk rock period, the folk rock stuff. This is also really good. I really enjoy this one as well. But again, for both of them, I gotta be in the right mood for them, if that makes sense. But still, very much respect them, and I do enjoy them. So, great picks here. I should probably mention songs on this one that I liked. All I Really Want to Do, Black Crow Blues, Spanish Harlem Incident, which I knew the Bird song first. Crimes of Freedom, My Back Pages, Don't Believe You, I Don't Believe You, It Ain't Me, Babe. Yeah. Again, enjoyable stuff. Next. Now here's an interesting one. So this, hopefully some of you, most of you probably have heard of this little project. So we have Envy of None, their self-titled debut. So if you don't know, this was a little project that Alex Lifeson of Rush participated in. So yeah, because I've heard many people talk about this album, and I really wanted to try it, but I keep putting it off for whatever reason. So now I finally have it. So if you're expecting this to sound like Rush, you might be a little disappointed. It doesn't really sound like Rush really at all for the most part. I mean, it's kind of like your indie alternative rock sort of thing, but it's very good. Like, trust me. Obviously, Alex Lifeson's on here, and he does a good job. He has some good riffs here and there, and little small solos, nothing too crazy, but it's great to hear him on something post Rush. It's like Never Said I Love You is a great opening song. Shadows is great. Look Inside, like the first three songs are really good, strong ones. Liar was a single. I think that was pretty good. I like that one. Spy House. Then you have Dumb. Old Strings, Enemy, and then the last song, which is a instrumental. It's called Western Sunset, and that's kind of like Alex's little tribute to Neil. Like I said, it's instrumental, and it's a very beautiful way to close out the album. So yeah, again, it doesn't sound like Rush, but for what it is, I think it's pretty dang good. So yeah, check it out if you haven't already. You might be surprised. All right, Donald Fagan, Nightfly, the Nightfly. Of course, Donald Fagan of Steely Dan. This is his solo album, came out in 1982. I mean, if you love Steely Dan, you're gonna love this one. There's nothing more to say. It just has a great feel, very jazzy, very commercial sounding, a lot of catchy songs like IGY, Ruby Baby, New Frontier, the title track, the Goodbye Look. Really, every song on here is very good. So, awesome. I'm glad I have it now. Alright, Grateful Dead's next. And I got this at the record store, and this one is In the Dark. Grateful Dead's an interesting band. They're a band I want to look into, but again, there's just so much to them. They have so many live stuff, and they have the studio stuff as well. So it's always kind of, because I do want to get into them, but again, people are gonna tell you different answers on where to start with. So this is one I heard was a good one to start with. I mean, it's 1987. There are some people who be like, no, why are you starting in the 80s? But it has a commercial sound to it. It's kind of like a little, if you have literally no idea what the Grateful Dead is all about, this might be an interesting one to start with. But yeah, I liked it. I really enjoyed it. Touch of Grey, which was a hit, surprisingly. I'm pretty sure the band didn't even think it was going to be that big of a hit, but it did. Hell in the Bucket, When Push Comes to Shove, Tons of Steel, Black Muddy River, Throwing Rough Stones. But yeah, I quite like this one. I don't know, I'm very interested to check out more of the Grateful Dead. Maybe check out the more classic period. I know American Beauty is a good one. But yeah, there's just so much to them. I don't know where else to go from there. But if you're a Deadhead, please let me know in the comments what I need to check out. All right, moving on. Let's go back to some jazz. So this is kind of more like a jazz funk sort of album. So we have Herbie Hancock, Headhunters. Very interesting cover. Kind of like that, honestly. So yeah, this was 1973. So only 4 songs, but yeah, you have very long as well. But yeah, it's funky, very cool sounding. So yeah, I don't have much else to say really, but again, it's all instrumental. But again, I'm really enjoying this sort of jazz funk. Like, I think jazz fusion is my favorite subgenre of jazz, and I think jazz funk is kind of right below that. So this is pretty much right up my alley. All right, I think we're kind of somewhat halfway done. So now let's keep on moving. So here's another band. So this band's called the Mahavishnu Orchestra. I probably butchered that saying. And this is the album The Inner Mounting Flame. And it's in this kind of little sleeve here because I believe it's part of those, like, you know, those 5 CD collection thingies. So I could tell because the disc has their logo. Is how I recognized it. So very interesting. But yeah, very cool to find though in the record store. So yeah, so jazz fusion, and this one has John McLaughlin on guitar here, and oh my god, like I said, jazz fusion is probably my favorite subgenre of jazz, and man, this is a good one. Like, the guitar work on here is just killer. Again, mostly it's instrumental again, but still, you don't miss them. Like, it's just absolutely spectacular. Like, everybody in this band, you have Billy Cobham on drums, Rick Laird on bass, Jan Hammer on piano, and Jerry Goodman on violin. Man, like, the musicianship is just spectacular. Like, oh my god, like, I probably will listen to this even more because I'm always going to feel like I'm going to hear something different each time. Just great musicianship all around. So yeah, check this out if you want to listen to some jazz fusion and you love guitar music. So check it out. Speaking of John McLaughlin, I also picked up one of his solo albums. I think this is his first solo album, so there's him on the back, a little blurry there. So this one's not as jazz fusion like. It's kind of more your typical jazz, your stereotypical jazz. You know, it's not as crazy, the guitar is not going all over the place. It's kind of just more straightforward. And you know, I like this one too. Of course, I think I prefer this one more, but yeah, it's still pretty good. I like it. Not bad at all. I might need to listen to it more. All right, here's another pretty well-known progressive rock album. We have Mike Oldfield with Tubular Bells. I've definitely seen this cover many times. Yeah, first impressions, very strong, very good, thumbs up. But yeah, there's 2 songs. They're 20 minutes each. So yeah, it's kind of a long way to go through. But there's some interesting stuff on here. Again, I think it's pretty much, for the most part, it's instrumental again, but there's like spoken word stuff, because there's at one point you hear somebody calling out each instrument, and each instrument has a little solo afterwards. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, I need to listen to this one more, because obviously there's a lot to unpack with this one. So, not really a good review there. Next, Katy Perry, because I bought Prism a while ago, so let's get some more. I definitely remember this album. Of course, I knew the hits. I knew California Girls with Snoop Dogg. Firework, of course, that's another song I do enjoy. I can't help it. I like Firework. I think that was like only those the real big songs I knew of this album. But yeah, some good stuff. I think I prefer Prism because that album had more songs I liked. This album has a lot more of that stuff I don't care for in pop music. It's kind of generic sounding. It doesn't really grab me, but sounds good. So yeah, I'm not ashamed to admit I like Katy Perry. Moving on. Here we go. We have The Proclaimers with Sunshine on Leith. I said it right. Sunshine on Leith. Yeah. Of course, we know the big hit on here. We know I'm gonna be 500 miles. I mean, it's Scottish as heck, but that's kind of why we like it. But yeah, I know Adam from What the Gym. I know he's probably I know he's pretty big onto this duo. So Adam, if you're watching this, let me know some other albums I should check out, because this is a good album. Like, aside from the first song, which I knew already, like the rest of the album I had no idea. And there's some great songs on here. Like, honestly, I like this way more than I thought I would. I thought I was going to be like, okay, that's nice. Okay, moving on. But no, there's actually some very catchy songs on here. You have Cap in Hand, then you have Then I Met You. Like, those 2 songs are some of my favorites on this album. My Old Friend the Blues, the title track, which is a pretty big song in Scotland, pretty good anthem. I'm on my way, Saturday Night, Teardrops. So I'm very impressed with this one. I was very shocked I liked it more than I did. So yeah, I'm glad. Good pick, good find. I unboxed this one on camera before, but we have Radiohead with OK Computer. Again, I wanted to check out Radiohead for a while. Decided to go with this one because many people cite this as one of their best, if not the best. And yeah, I'm, again, very impressed with this one. This is another one of those albums I need to listen to it more, because I feel like the more you listen to it, the more you start to really enjoy it more. It's very interesting. Again, it's alternative, kind of indie, but also has like my smidge of art rock, maybe a bit of prog. Not so much. I'm kind of stretching on the prog part. But still, this is interesting. Again, I'll probably listen to this one more. All right, I shown this one on camera, but we have the Smiths, The Queen is Dead. Again, this is a pretty big album, especially in England. I'm not sure if I get the hype just yet. I do like it. Morrissey has a pretty nice voice. But yeah, I don't know why. I don't know if because of the music. The music probably hasn't really hit me yet. It sounds good. I mean, probably my favorite song is There Is a Light That Never Goes Out, which was a pretty big song, at least to them. But yeah, the other songs, I like them. Again, I'm not sure if I quite get it yet. Again, like I said, probably need to listen to it more. But as it stands, it's fine. Not bad. All Alright, here's the greatest hits. I try not to get greatest hits so often, but every so often I'll go for it. But here is Donna Summer. Yep, we got good old Donna here, the queen of disco, if you will. Yep, I just got it, just for the hits. There you go, that's the only reason. What's kind of interesting about this one is that they actually made the songs in a way, they kind of arranged the songs and they kind of mix it in a way where it kind of sounds like it flows together, like it's one song. Because, you know, it's disco, so you're going to play this at a club. So it does have that sort of playlist, like how DJs would put their playlists together, where it just blends into the next song. That's kind of cool. But yeah, not much to say. It's the greatest hits. What more do you want? Okay. Here's another modern pop album, Taylor Swift, Midnights. So I remember this. This was huge. Like, no joke, this was huge. And I can say that because I was there when it came out. But yeah. I mean, if you go on Spotify, you looked at the charts. God, it's like, let me just jiggle this because I don't want this to fall asleep. But as I was saying, like, pretty much every song was in this. This song dominated the Spotify charts. Like, it was insane. And then you had people who loved this album, but then you had people hating it. Some people because they didn't care for it. Some people didn't hate. Some were just hating on it because it was just so popular. So it's kind of died down a bit since then. And, you know, like I said in the beginning, I wanted to tiptoe back into modern music. And based on my own opinion, sitting through this album by myself is actually very good. It's actually very good. I had a good time with this one. Is it the greatest album ever? No, but I still enjoy it for what it is. But yeah, there's some interesting songs on here. Like the first song, Lavender Haze, Maroon, Anti-Hero, which was probably the biggest hit on here. I like that one too. You're on Your Own, Kid, Midnight Rain, Labyrinth, Karma, Mastermind. Yeah, it's a very strong album. Yeah, I'm not ashamed to admit that. But again, some people don't like Taylor Swift. Some people don't like most of the modern stuff I've shown this in this video. But that's okay. We all hear these things differently. But yeah, I like it. All right. A little backstory in this next batch. So I have 5 CDs of this particular artist. So I think I have a new obsession. So 2021 was Joy Division. That was probably my obsession there. 2022 was Kate Bush. And so 2023 is this particular artist. So, reminders. So, I think it was January. And I got this album out because I know I wanted to show this. But in January, I bought this album. So, this album's called Variety, and it's by a Japanese pop singer called Mariya Takeuchi. Hopefully I said that right. And I bought that album. Absolutely loved it. I also did a follow-up video where I went through my top 5 CD purchases of that month as well. That album was number 1. I was just immediately blown away. Like, I love this album. So for a couple months now, I've wanted to get more of her albums, and luckily I was able to do so. So like I said, I bought 5 CDs by Mariya. So first up, we have Beginner, which is her debut. Her second album, University Street. Her third album, well, yeah, is it third? Yeah, third. Love Songs. And then we have Miss M, her fourth. I don't have her fifth one though. That's the one thing I need to get. And then after the 5th album, it'll be this one. But then the next one I got, which is the follow-up to Variety, we have Request. So yeah, I'm obsessed. So just some good stuff all throughout. So let's start with the debut first. Very strong debut. It's probably my least favorite of this batch, but there's still some very cool songs on here. Some good stuff on here. Her vocals still sound great on it. There's some catchy songs too. Again, I think she would improve a lot more. She'd have much more catchier songs going forward, but still, very decent first album. A lot of these songs are in Japanese, so I can't really read them to you. But there's one song, I think it's track number 4. So if you can probably find these albums on YouTube. Like a lot of these early albums, a lot of these early albums, you're probably not going to find on Spotify. You're probably going to have to go on YouTube. You can find this one on Spotify, so we can listen to this one, but I'll get to that one in a little bit. But yeah, so track 4, that's probably my favorite song on here. It kind of has a doo-woppy feel, almost sounds like a Beach Boys song almost. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, very good debut. And then we have her second album, University Street, and it's actually, based on what I've read, it's kind of hard to find information on all these albums because, again, it's Japanese. So, yeah, you're going to have to really dig to find some good sources that's in English. But from what I've gathered, I think this is supposed to be a concept album. And by the title, it's supposed to be about university. You know, that's it. Just all the things that happen in university. And this is definitely a huge step forward in the right direction. I like this a little bit more than the debut. This is where her pop stuff is really starting to get more catchy. A lot of good melodies, a lot of great tracks. So yeah, very much enjoyed this one. Her third one, Love Songs. So by this point, she's starting to get more into more funkier, definitely going more disco sounds. So a lot of the songs have a disco R&B feel. But then you have your typical pop songs as well. I still like this more than the debut, but I think I prefer the second one over this one. But still, very good. Now here is one that's the most interesting one. So her fourth album, which is called Miss M. This is an interesting one. So if I remember, hopefully I'll remember, but I'll show you the personnel, like the people who played on the album, and you'll notice something kind of interesting. Like because a lot of the songs were actually produced in Los Angeles. So half the songs were produced in Los Angeles, the other half was done in Japan. And the songs that were produced in Los Angeles the session musicians were American, and there's some very notable personnel on this one. So if you look carefully, again, hopefully I remember to show a clip, but you'll see you have people like, like Jay Graydon, David Foster, who of course is a famous producer, has worked with like many artists, particularly with Chicago in the 80s. You have Jeff Porcaro, and then you have Steve Lukather as well. You have David Hungate. Like those three people I just mentioned were part of Toto. So you have these great session musicians as well. And there was another person, I can't remember who, but I know one of the guitarists. There was another guitarist on here. I think it was Bill Chaplin, I think. No, not Bill Chaplin. Let me see. Trying to see. Oh, yeah, Jay Graydon. Yeah, I think it was Jay Graydon. But of course, Jay Graydon, also famous session musician. He did the guitar solo on Steely Dan's Peg. So he did the guitar solo on that song. So, yeah, who would have thought that like Steve Lukather, Jeff Porcaro would be playing on a Japanese pop album? And it works. This is probably my favorite of these early albums. This is probably my favorite because, again, Steve Lukather and the gang really add to this one. Like the first song, which is called Sweetest Music. Sweetest Music. Yeah, Sweetest Music. And there's a guitar solo on it, and you hear the guitar solo, and you're like, yep, that sounds like Steve, all right. That sounds like something he'd play. But yeah, there's a lot more great songs on here. Like, again, probably a song I would suggest you check out on this album. Again, you're gonna have to find this on YouTube. It's called Secret Love. Like, oh my god, I love that song. I love the chorus to it. Just so catchy. I love that one. So yeah, very good. And now let's go on to this one, Request, which is the follow-up to Variety. This one came out in 1987, sorry. And very good follow-up. Obviously, I still prefer this one, but still some great songs on here. You have I mean, some of the songs are in English, so the rest are in Japanese, so I can't read them. But Oh No, Oh Yeah, which is another standout song. Great pop song. Very good. And there's some other great songs. Track 4 is another good one. I like track 7, 8. Track 1 is a pretty good opener. Track 10. Yeah, it's a good one. So, yeah. I'm trying to see if I can get her entire discography. Who knows? Maybe we'll do a ranking video on her. I'm not sure how many people will watch that, but heck, I mean, who knows? But yeah, Mariya Takeuchi. Check her out if you have time. All right, I spent a lot of time on her. Let's keep moving. We're almost done. Uriah Heep, Chaos in Color, their latest album, and yeah. Again, this is like probably because I have a Abominog, and besides that, then I've only ever really listened to the David Byron era, so I've not heard any of the Bernie Shaw stuff, and very impressed. So yeah, I like Bernie Shaw's vocalist. Sounds like he fits pretty well, and of course Mick Box, still a killer guitar player. I mean, he's in his 70s and he's still killing it, and the rest of the band does really well too. This is another one I need to listen to more, but based on what I've heard, so based on the one time I've got a chance to hear it, very much impressed by this. Very happy with this one. So if you've been sleeping on post David Byron stuff, you might be surprised. There's some hidden gems here. Okay, I've shown this one before. We have the Velvet Underground, their self-titled album, which is the 3rd album. So yeah, this is kind of not as experimental as Velvet Underground and Nico. A bit more straightforward, a lot of kind of your rock, folk rock sort of sound. And yeah, I enjoy this one quite a bit. Candy Says, which actually has Doug Yule on lead vocals, normally be Lou Reed, but that's kind of nice. What's Going On? Pale Blue Eyes, which is the song I knew before. It was a great song. I'm Set Free. The Story of My Life. Probably the weakest song is The Murder Mystery. I think that one kind of goes on a bit too long. But I really like the last song, After Hours, which has Maureen Tucker, the drummer, the percussionist, who sings. And I think I kind of like it. Obviously, she's not like she's not your typical singer, but I think it fits the sound the song's going for. So yeah, I like this one. Very good. Okay, next two are by the same band. As you know, I guess you could say this band's like in second place on my obsessions. Like, obviously Mariya Takeuchi is number 1 of my obsession list this year, but this band's a little bit not far behind. So we have Weather Report. So again, I have Heavy Weather, and I have, what's the other one? Mysterious Traveler. I think that's it. I enjoyed both of them very much, so I wanted to get more. So I found their second album, which is I Sing the Body Electric. Great album. And then we have Black Market. And we have Jaco Pastorius on this album. I think this is the first album where he is a full-time member. I think he's appeared on albums before this one, but by this point he is a full-time member. He's not on this album, by the way, but still very good. And Black Market, again, very good. Again, Jaco kind of adds more to it for me, so I kind of prefer this album more. But yeah, again, both of them are very good. Again, I want to get more Weather Report soon. Maybe we'll get the whole catalog. Yeah, very happy with these. Just great musicianship all around. Great melodies. Great stuff. Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. All right, next we got Weezer. Yep, Weezer. So one of those bands where people will either defend or people who absolutely hate them, and then you have the gray area. So obviously the debut is probably to most people is their best album, which you know, I agree. Well, then again, I can't really say that because I haven't heard everything. But yeah, this is a great first album. I really enjoy it. Produced by Rick Ocasek from the Cars. You have My Name is Jonas, which is the first song. Buddy Holly, which was a hit. I really like In the Garage. Surf Wax America. The World Has Turned and Left Me Here. Holiday. Only in Dreams. So yeah, I'll enjoy this one. I do want to investigate more to them. I do want to check out Pinkerton, which many people say that's probably another one of their good albums. I heard it's very experimental as heck, so I'm gonna have to brace myself for that one. But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued on that one. And then pretty much everything after that, it's pretty much like anything goes. Like, I know the catalog is very mixed. It's like it's like, I don't know, choose something, because some people like the album, then many people say it's terrible. It's confusing, but overall, good album. All right, next, Frank Zappa and the Mother's Inventions. I've shown this one before, so yeah, wanted to get some Frank Zappa. I saw it, I got it. I'm kind of mixed on it. So yeah, I think this one's a bit too psychedelic experimental for my taste. I appreciate for what it is, especially it was very different for that time. But it's a long album too, and yeah, and I do like long albums. I don't mind the long run time, but this album was kind of one of those where I kind of felt the time was like, okay, we're doing this. Come on, let's get to something good. Let's get to something catchy, please. But yeah, again, I appreciate for what it is, but didn't really do much for me. And so I uploaded that video, and one of the commenters said, one comment said that I should check out Hot Rats. Like, that's a pretty good one. So it's funny that person said that, because I did get it. Like, I think I got it like a week before that comment. That somebody left that comment. So yeah, that person was thinking ahead. And so my thoughts on this one, much better. This was a good one. I really enjoyed this one. 6 tracks. There's, again, no vocals on this one. This album did have vocals on it, but it was kind of more like a, again, like experimental stuff. Again, it's all instrumental. Well, not all of it. There's track 2 has what's his name? Captain Beefheart, and he does his thing, which is interesting, but it didn't bother me that much. But for the most part, it's all instrumental. It's jazz fusion. It's progressive rock. It's done very well. And the guitar work on here, like, I didn't really get the guitar. Like, people say Frank Zappa is a great guitarist. I didn't really hear it on this one, but on this one, this is where I'm like, okay, yes, Frank Zappa is a great guitar player. So yeah, if you want to get to Frank Zappa, this is a good one to start with. So that's my review. And then we have one more to go. Last one, and I unboxed this one on camera before. So next we have The Zombies, Oracle, and Odyssey and Oracle. I always mix them up. But yeah, I said it before. I did a review on Garrett from Soundless Use. I collaborated on him on his channel. Me, Jason, and Nick, we reviewed it. Again, go check that video out if you haven't already. We had a great discussion on it. But overall, I think it's a very good album. One of the best of the 60s, really. This is an album I feel the more you hear it, you really start to love it more and more. And so, yeah. Go and listen to it if you haven't. Alright, that is it. That's all the CDs I have bought throughout the month of April. So of course, if you like this video, please give it a like, subscribe if you're new. In the comments below, let me know what was the albums that stood out to you the most. What was your favorite of this haul? If you want to share what you bought throughout the month of April, again, drop it in the comments. I look forward to reading them. Stay tuned, because the next video will be my top 5. So we're just going to take the CDs I've just shown, and I'm just going to name my top 5 favorite CD purchases of April. So expect that either probably today or tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see how I feel. But look forward to that. But that's it from me for now. Take care. See you next time.